I gave people all the stuff they really needed. Social security checks, utility bills, TV guide.
I want a TV guidance counselor. TV guidance counselor. Staying up to watch all night, and everything's gonna be alright with my TV guidance counselor.
Hey everybody, welcome. Ken Reed here, a TV Guidance Counselor with the show TV Guidance Counselor. This is the show where each and every week I welcome an interesting person to the virtual studio. We discuss classic television using an issue of TV Guide from my personal collection as the inspiration for our conversation. Whew. I'm out of breath. I walked up a whole flight of stairs. Just put the laundry in the dryer, and man, that wiped me out. It's that kind of day. Anyway, you don't need to know how out of shape I am. Anyway, my guest this week is comedian Richard Sarvate. Richard, you can go to rsarvate.com to check out all his stuff. He has stand-up ballet. He's got a stand-up special called They're Gonna Know that is out now. You should definitely watch that. He recorded at the Punchline in San Francisco because he is a San Francisco-based comic. So it's a really fun chat. I think you'll enjoy it. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Richard Sarvate.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Richard, how are you, sir?
Doing great, man. I'm really excited to talk about this. Going through this TV guide was major nostalgia, and man, I watched some reruns of some of this stuff just to jog my memory, and I experienced emotions I didn't even know I was going to experience. So,
well, thank you for doing that, and also I'm sorry. I don't know if it took you on a journey, but yeah, this is a great issue you picked too. So this is March 31st to April 6th, 1990, with the dearly departed old friend Bob Saget on the cover, friend of the show. Yes. This is a really cool cover too, and I wonder if, like, I think you and I are roughly the same age-ish, but it's when America's Funniest Home Videos came out, and Saget's holding a camera, and I feel like kids wouldn't know what that was.
No, not at all. And it's so funny with Bob Saget because he's such a creep. You know, if you watch his stand-up, and watching him with a camcorder is just hilarious. Like, you don't know what he's filming.
And it's got a big smirk there. It's like a you wake up and that's what you see kind of image.
Oh my God, yeah. If I woke up in the middle of the night and saw that, I'd be terrified and also happy.
Now I want to do an experiment where I show this to like a Zoomer and I'm like, what is he holding? Like, I imagine they might work out camera, but yeah, if I think a camera looks like a phone or something, that thing will look bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I think people would think it's a bazooka or something at this point.
Yeah, the eyepiece is weird, man. Did you grow up in San Francisco, in the San Francisco area?
Yeah, I grew up in the surrounding area. I grew up in Fremont, and but you know, San Francisco is where I cut my teeth doing comedy, and it's, you know, a great comedy city. And you know, I grew up watching Full House and watching America's Funniest Home Videos. And then when I got into stand-up, I started watching Bob Saget's stand-up, and I went through I think the shock that most people go through where they see what his act really is like. Yep. And you're like, wait, is that Danny Tanner? Like, and I think he used to just get off on that, on shattering people's expectations like that.
Yeah, he definitely did. And like, but the funny thing was his stand-up was always like that, which is, I remember seeing it as a kid. And then when I saw him on Full House, I was like, it's that guy? It was, yeah. I mean, it wasn't like seeing Andrew Dice Clay play a dad, but it was, you know, in that realm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so funny. Like, I mean, stand-up back in the day used to be a way for people to get picked up and go into sitcoms. And so, yeah, people would start off at the clubs, and you would be this dirty guy, and then you'd get picked up for a sitcom, and you'd have to clean up your act. You know, all these people went through it. Where Everybody Loves Raymond, you know, Seinfeld. No, Seinfeld was always clean, but
Roseanne.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, her act is filthy.
Brett Butler. Yeah, there was a lot. I just read a really funny thing in the Boston Globe about Seinfeld. I don't know why it was in there recently, but this is totally, not totally off topic, but it was an article about how a heckle from 1990 has still haunted him to this day when he was performing in Boston in 1990. And it was a 2-word heckle, and he still bothers him.
Those stick with you. Oh yeah. I think of heckles from years ago, and it's just like, because the thing is, you're so vulnerable in front of this whole audience, and then somebody just attacks you and you don't know what to do. I mean, you're so helpless.
Did you see the article? Did you see what the heckle was?
Oh, I forget. I read it too, but I can't remember right now. What was it?
He was doing this bit about weddings or something, and someone in Boston just goes, "Heard it."
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. I've had this exact same heckle too. Because I was doing my act in San Francisco at Cobb's, and somebody shouted out the punchline to one of my jokes, and I just froze. I didn't know what to do. I was like, on the one hand, I was like, this is great. People know who I am. On the other hand, I was like, I better start writing some new jokes.
Yeah, and also like you can't. It's almost worse when you can't be mad at someone because they like. I guess that would mean they're a fan. It's a very complicated set of emotions.
Yeah, it's like I feel like I'm Bon Jovi up there, and they're like singing the punchlines to my material.
It would be easier if they were just belting out "Living on a Prayer." That would be less of a conflict in your own brain to deal with as a heckler.
I would love that, yeah, because it's like when you're a rock star, you can just play the same songs over and over, and nobody complains. You know, I go up there, I do the same jokes, and people are like, "Boo! Write something new." I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who don't even know that still to this day, and this always surprises me that stand-ups write their stuff because they'll be like, "You just go up there and just talk, right?"
I know, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's I really I've had it so many times where I'll be doing 2 shows in a night, and somebody has so much fun at the first show, and they'll stay for the second show, and I'm just like, oh no, and then you know slowly through the night. You know, during the second show, I just watch them realize what's going on. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe I like shattered this perception of what you thought I was.
It's kind of too much power for one man to have. Speaking of Saget, the article in here is actually really great. This is like one of the more comprehensive TV guide articles I've seen. It's about 10 pages, and it's like a biography of him, including like pictures of his parents when they first met and like all these family photos. It's like ridiculously elaborate. Wow. It's very, very strange.
I have an aversion to a knot in my tie bigger than my. Oh, that is a egregious tie he's got in that picture for sure.
That whole look is egregious. The hair is rough. That's
God.
Oof, that is a look. And there's a really good article in here about Earl Hyman, who played Bill Cosby's dad on the Cosby Show, who was a really great actor. He's the kind of guy everyone knows his face, but like no one remembers his name.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize just how popular. Like looking at these schedules on, I just didn't realize how popular certain shows were. Like the Cosby Show comes on like multiple times a week during prime time. I can't imagine how famous Bill Cosby was, you know?
It was, I mean, the number one show on television now or streaming or whatever, just from like volume, people wise, would not have even cracked the top 200 shows in 1990. Oh. To put that in perspective for you.
Incredible. Yeah, we're in
everything's a niche now.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that are famous and then, you know, I just won't even know who they are.
Oh, easily. I mean, you know, there was less choice here, but, you know, and obviously we were younger, so we paid more attention to stuff like television. But, you know, I knew every show on TV, whether I had seen it or not. And now there are shows someone will be like, oh, this CBS sitcom's on season 21. And I'm like, this is the first I've even heard of this show.
Oh, yeah, yes. Season 21, there's lifelong fans attached to the franchise, and you're just like, what is this?
Oh, yeah. Children have grown up and been married since the show started. Before we get to listings, there's a really interesting article in here because in 1990, they launched a bunch of new cable networks. There was some deregulation that went on. And they launched all these new cable networks, and it happened at the beginning of 1990, so it was spring 1990. And two of them are of particular note, because one is the TV comedy network, and the other is Comedy Central. And they were two different channels that were rival channels that eventually merged into Comedy Central.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So, wow, I didn't realize. So is that kind of what started? Because there was like a big comedy boom around this time, I feel like.
It sort of started in mid-'80s.
Yeah. I think I remember comedians kind of protesting actually when all these shows were on the network, because I think these TV shows kind of took away from live stand-up a little bit. Like people just were watching comedy at home. Like I think Evening at the Improv became really popular at this time and started taking people away from going to see live comedy. So that was kind of like, it was a contradictory thing.
Yeah, it was also like the same thing that happened to vaudeville, where you could have one act that you did for your entire life. Like you just traveled around and did this act and never needed to change it because people only saw it live. But, you know, you go on TV for 5 minutes and now you got to do a whole new act now. And the more sort of slots for stand-ups, the more you had to keep pumping stuff out. Although I will say the bar was incredibly low, because it was pretty easy to get a TV spot in the late 80s.
Oh, man. Dude, I watched some stuff, like I watched some clips of The Unknown Comic, and I'm just watching the material he's doing, and I'm like, this was on TV? Are you kidding me right now? Like, put me in the 80s, man. Put me in, coach. Like, I could do this.
At least he had a gimmick. So at least his gimmick was a standout. So you're like, okay. Because, there is, man, like the Evening at the Improvs, there is some, there are people. Yeah, it's and then the sub Evening at the Improvs, there was like ones that you never even heard that would be like ha-has or like The Funny Show. It would just be stand up from some random. Yeah, it was rough. But Ha was the comedy channel that was started by MTV Networks, and the Comedy Channel, which became Comedy Central, was HBO's station. So Ha was the one that had all of the old reruns and Saturday Night Live and that kind of stuff. And the original concept of Comedy Central, or the Comedy Channel, weirdly, even though MTV didn't do that channel, was sort of MTV of comedy. So instead of music videos, they would show clips, like 2-minute clips of comedy from movies or stand-up, and they would have hosts like VJs.
Oh, wow. Oh, man, we got to bring that back. I mean, I would totally watch that. I miss those days. I mean, like the glory days of MTV. Oh man, just every day before school, just sitting and being like, okay, what music video is going to come on? And it would be "Freak on a Leash" and then "Losing My Religion" by REM. And it's just, I'm like, that's what I needed every morning. And now I'm like, oh no, what do I do?
You need that curated, random, just what's going to happen. What mood am I going to be in for the day? Because I happen to see it in the morning.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God. And like, sometimes you get annoyed too. You're like, no, I don't want to watch Everybody Hurts right now. Like, that's not what I need.
I was in a good mood. It's funny. One of Mark Maron's first national gig was on the original Comedy Channel, which was a show called Short Attention Span Theater, because it was like 1-minute clips of stand-up that he hosted.
Oh my God. Mark Maron is just incredible for like the kind of stuff that he was doing on live network television. Like the jokes he was by far the edgiest comedian that would get away with his type of material on a network show. Because the stuff he was saying on TV back then, you cannot get away with anymore. Like he was doing jokes about, underage children, and he did it on like Letterman or something like that. And I was like, this is incredible that he can get away with this. Oh, you should check out his Evening at the Improv. It's pretty terrible. He's doing jokes about hacky sack, and oh man, it's not his best work. Watching Evening at the Improv is so inspiring, because I see so many great comedians that are doing a terrible act, and I go, oh, okay, all it takes is 20 years in the business, and then you become good. Yeah. So let's dive in here. On Saturday night, what was your pick here? Saturday night. Oh, Taxi Driver. Got to watch the whole movie, start to finish. Big fan of Scorsese, or just that movie? Oh, just that movie. Oh my God. It's just like, it's so intense. Like the Robert De Niro's anger. I just identify with him as just a psycho. and the folklore
Richard's got
that
a
goes
mohawk,
along-
everybody, and he's
Oh my God! Yeah, no.
been pointing a gun at me this whole time.
Robert De Niro is my spirit animal for sure. Just like you're talking to me, you're talking to me. Like I get into imaginary fights in my apartment all the time, and and I love the whole thing with John Hinckley Jr. and the attempted Reagan assassination and his love for Jodie Foster. I mean, I can't think of a movie that has inspired such a like huge cultural event as that.
I mean, without Taxi Driver, we wouldn't have had an attempted Reagan assassination, and that was fun for everyone.
Hey, I mean, that's real reality television right there.
Life imitating art. I also love Albert Brooks in Taxi Driver, Albert Brooks is one of my favorites ever. And I remember growing up, they released I think it must have been like the 20th anniversary of Taxi Driver or something. And they were doing interviews of the cast, and they interviewed Albert Brooks. And he said a thing that at the time I was like, what a dick. But now I really appreciate him saying this. He was like, well, in that movie, I had to play someone who was less funny than I am. This guy was the funniest guy in the office, but he was like a regular person funny. And I'm much funnier than that. And I'm like, what a jerk. But then I'm like, no, he's right.
Wow. That is a really interesting cross of self-awareness and arrogance at the same time. Wow.
It makes sense because if you see movies where someone's supposed to be within the world of the movie, they're supposed to be funny. Like they're funny to other characters in the movie, which thinking about it isn't something that happens that much in movies. Like it's normally someone's not like intentionally funny in the reality of the movie. But when they are, it's never realistic. It's always like, oh, this is clearly written. This person's a comedian or something, but it's not like a real person funny.
Yeah. I think that's really hard to pull off because I mean, being naturally funny in a conversation is like, that's impossible. Like, and then to do it on acting, like that's weird. Yeah. So I don't think you see that. It comes across as cheesy if you're trying to be the funny guy in the office in a TV show or something like that.
Or even like if you see someone doing like a movie where they're doing stand up, like it's a written, the character stand up, it's always terrible stand up.
Terrible. Oh my God. That movie Punchline with Tom Hanks. So bad. Yeah. But you can't, because a stand-up is that's the rawest form of like making people laugh. So you have to be like on the forefront of comedy, and you're not gonna sit in a writer's room and write a funny stand-up. You got to go on stage. Like I think that's why now in movies, if they're gonna have someone do stand-up, they only have real stand-up comedians. Like they had Sam Morril in The Joker. He goes up before Joaquin Phoenix.
Because they're so themselves too. So if you like put that extra layer of your artifice above it like really just makes the whole thing kind of collapse.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it is funny to play a bad stand-up comedian though, because that is really easy to do. Because you just take your jokes that never worked on stage and then you just tell them all, and and it works perfectly.
Yeah, I that was my excuse for the first 10 years. I was playing a character. There's a couple of interesting things on in addition to Taxi Driver that night, because so this is in April, and April's mid-season replacement time. So this is when they would roll out some strange shows that didn't start in the fall, and two of them that night on NBC rather. One is called A Family for Joe. This is a sitcom starring Robert Mitchum. Speaking of 70s crime movies, Robert Mitchum's in my all-time favorite, Friends of Eddie Coyle, which is such a good movie. Okay. And this is a comedy, and it also stars Ben Savage and Juliette Lewis, one of her first roles.
Wow.
Not a great show.
Is Ben Savage related to Fred Savage?
Yes, it's his younger brother who went on to star in Boy Meets World.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know a lot about pop culture, but I mean, I don't know the intricacies of the behind the scenes. I just watch the shows. But yeah, I would always confuse The Wonder Years and Boy Meets World, and I'd be like, wait, are these actors related? So you just fixed that situation for me.
I blew the lid off. Yeah, you mean you watch television like a normal person?
Yeah, exactly. I'd just be flipping. I'd be like, okay, yeah, cool.
Do you have siblings?
I have a younger brother and an older sister, but no, we were not a TV house. Like my parents really thought like TV was kind of like evil a little bit, and so when I watched TV, it was always like in secret, and there was a couple TV shows that my dad liked that I could also watch just because he liked them. My window into what TV was very small. So I don't have like all the knowledge.
Because you're first generation American, right? Your parents immigrated?
Parents grew up in India. I came here in 1976. I was born in 1984. Yeah.
So they had a unique perspective on some of the TV here, coming here as adults in, the mid 70s and just being like, what my kids aren't watching this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the weird thing though was like my dad would watch some shows, just like he would watch Three's Company. And I was like, in retrospect, I'm like, oh, he just wanted to see Suzanne Summers and, the other women running around. And so I was somehow TV. Allowed to watch. Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, this is the show that we're allowed to watch. Like, and we can't watch like Wonder Years for some reason he thought was like a dumb show. And so we couldn't watch that, but we could watch Three's Company.
It is funny. I hear that all the time where parents had strict rules, but then those rules were immediately undone and they were allowed to watch a show if their parent wanted to watch it and didn't feel like having to deal with getting the kid out of the room. So it would always be like, well, we weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons because it was disrespectful. Oh, my dad loved Married with Children though. It was like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Married with Children. We were totally allowed to watch. But yeah, I had the same thing. Simpsons was like, I really don't understand the logic there.
Well, dad likes the ladies,
I think that's the logic. Yeah.
And the other thing that was on, and this was a really weird show, there was a Carol Burnett sort of comeback attempt in 1990 at this time. And this show's called Carol and Company. And it's not a sitcom. It's technically a sketch show, but each episode is a half-hour sketch. So it is... I guess it'd be more like an anthology. And some of the people that were on this, like Amy Sedaris is in an episode. Like she pulled a lot of people out of Second City circa 1990, that blew up later that were in this sort of, and it's really oddly edgy and weird. It did not go over well.
Yeah. I love a lot of these like experimental shows. Like it's so funny to see like such high profile experiments. Like, I mean, this is prime time on a Saturday and they're like, okay, we're just going to try this edgy sketch show. I think that's so cool. Like there's no risk taking anymore in television. It's like, if you want to see a risky show, you watch it on some like Adult Swim or something like that at midnight. There's no primetime risk.
Yeah, you need low stakes, or you need sort of a transitional time period where the networks are like, I don't fucking know, man. I got no idea. I have no idea. Like, does this work? Do people like this? I don't know. And you can get some stuff through, like Carol and Company. Someone at some 70-year-old executive at NBC was like, yeah, people like Carol Burnett, right? Here you go. And it ends up being this weird. Like this episode is a half-hour anthology, and a half-hour episode where she hires a human exterminator service to kill her husband, who's played by Richard Kind. It's really weird. And then it's outside the purview, but just because we were talking about stand-up, I happened to see who was on Comic Strip Live on Saturday night, and it is Jenny Jones, Jack Gallagher, who I don't know. I've never heard of. The Moscow Circus Bear.
No, I don't know. I don't know any of these.
Gary Lazar, David Parker, Kozak, and then the band Rockapella from Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely watch all of that. I mean, that's Rockapella. Yeah, 100%. And I don't know. Is Jack Gallagher related to the other Gallagher? Let me check this.
No. Thank God for Jack Gallagher. I don't know anything about him, but I can say that lucky for him, he is not related to Gallagher or Gallagher 2.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I thought it was that whole situation because whenever I think about Gallagher, like, I mean, I just grew up with that whole like everybody makes fun of Gallagher, but I think like the watermelon guy. But I loved his comedy, and I was like, I thought everything he did was brilliant.
The specials were fun. He was one of the first guys to have stand-up specials on TV and like frequently, like, you know, and do weird stuff. So yeah, for sure.
He was interesting. Like the whole watermelon smashing, that was such a fun bit on like, hey, buy this stupid thing. He was making fun of infomercials, and I was like, yeah, he's doing social commentary. I was like, why is everyone making fun of this guy?
He is incredibly racist and one of the only people that I've ever had to fake a phone call to get away from. But
okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's always this behind the scenes stuff that stops people from like reaching that next level, you know?
or help them, depending on the decade.
Oh, yeah. No, there's definitely a market for that for sure.
I mean, I do like that in the year 2024. This is partly it's probably because I don't leave the house as much, but this is like one of the first times in my life where if I'm at a show or something and I'm standing around and it's like just a bunch of other white guys, one of them doesn't sort of lean in and be like, all right, now that it's just us, let me tell you some horrible racist things. And I have to be like, what made you think that I would be okay with that? And
yeah, that definitely happens. I went to go see Bill Burr, and Bill, but his fans are, oh my God, they are ratchet people. Like they just like, the guy next to me, same thing. He was just like, some woman walked by and then he just leaned over and he made like some awful comment about her. And I was like, okay, like I see what Bill's fans are like, but so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to horse blinders on. I'm just going to watch Bill, you know?
Yeah. Cause he was like, you're a guy, you're at this show. You probably will appreciate this. High five, brother.
Yeah, dog, you know how it is out there.
I'm like, no. Not me. You just want to have like a button on that says like, I'm not like you.
Oh yeah, that would be very useful for a lot of situations in my life. I go to a lot of events and I go like, am I supposed to be here right now? This is, it's so funny because like I go to a lot of like heavy metal shows and I'll just go dressed in my normal clothes. Like, yeah, I'll just wear like a crew neck or something. And then I show up and everybody is like, has like long dingy hair. They haven't showered. It's all black and tattered. And I'm like, wait, am I these people? Like, I don't understand really.
What are some of your bands?
A lot of metal bands. I just went to go see Drug Church, kind of a hardcore punk band. Before that, went to go see Glassjaw. They're a post-hardcore band from Long Island. Who else did I go see? Just a lot of punk, basically.
So were you like into like Cave In and Converge and those kind of like metal bands?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen Converge a bunch of times. I just went to go probably 6 months ago in San Francisco. Yeah, one of my favorites.
So I was in hardcore and punk bands in Boston in the 90s. So
really?
Yeah, that's really weird. Yeah, so those were all like the bands that we would play with.
Oh, that is awesome, man. Wow, I did not know that. That is such a cool scene to be part of. And I think there's so many parallels between that scene and stand-up. It's just so DIY, you're the only one. And I respect you guys for just dragging all your equipment to all these shows. Like as a stand-up, I just have to go show up and tell jokes, but you guys have to lift a 200-pound amplifier. Like, much respect to you guys.
When I started doing stand-up, I was like there was a lot of things I didn't miss, but the thing I really didn't miss was like after you'd play a show, and especially around here, it'd be like cold and raining in the winter, and you'd have to go back and like unload all the gear. Like that was, you just want to go home and you're like, we got to put it all away. Yeah. It's like another hour of ugh.
That is wild, man. Yeah, but you do it for the pure love, man.
I suppose. Or, I had nothing else to do, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, or boredom.
How'd you get into that stuff? Were you into that when you were a teenager? Or?
Yeah. My friend group, we were definitely like misfits of our high school and middle school. So we would just go see, and there was a great punk venue in San Francisco called The Pound. And we would go and just see who was playing there, and we were just out. We were just like the weird kids, and so I think it was a really natural transition. My friends would just tell me what to listen to.
Yeah, like Gilman Street was writing.
yeah.
Oh yeah. It was like pre-internet, that's how it would be. It'd be like, I made you a mixtape. Here's some stuff that you'll like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we'd be going to the most dangerous parts of San Francisco to go to these shows. And, we're 14 and we're just in, a really messed up area. Those are good times.
Oh, you didn't know any better. I think the band Naked Aggression was from San Francisco. I want to say that was around that time. Who were really great.
Bands I would see, I remember Poison the Well was big during that time.
Oh yeah.
Chimera was a really cool metal band that was from the area, I think.
That's funny. Yeah, I think people are slightly more tolerant now when they go to shows because they're like, when we would play, it would be funny because I could pick out exactly who was there to see us. I'd be like, who doesn't belong? Who looks like they came straight from school? And I'm like, that kid. And I'm like, those would be the ones who would buy some merch.
Oh, yeah. Like they were like, hey, just drop everything and go to the show. Like, I got no time to change. Like, I must see this now. Yeah, those are real fans.
Yeah, like who's the kid who looks like he was either going to go to a comic store or to a punk show? Could have been either one. That kid.
Yeah.
Those are
those are the ones you want.
Sunday night, what'd you do?
Let's see. Sunday night. Let me check real quick. I have so there's a lot of TV shows. I'm going to start with Three's Company. Then I'm going to go to America's Funniest Home Videos. Then Roseanne. Then Married with Children. And then I have never seen this movie, but I thought it looked interesting. Friday the 13th. I originally thought it was the Jason movie, but it's not Jason. It looked interesting, so I kind of wanted to check that out.
So that is actually Friday the 13th, the series, which was an hour-long weekly anthology show that was unrelated to the movies. It had the same producer, Frank Mancuso Jr., so he used the title to basically sell the show. But the concept of Friday the 13th, the series, was these two cousins inherit their uncle's antique store, and their uncle had made a deal with the devil, and all of the antiques in his store were cursed. So they have the manifest from the store, and they're trying to hunt down all these cursed antiques and get them back before people get killed.
Nice.
It was kind of fun.
Okay, yeah, that seems really, that seems terrifying, and just the perfect amount of kitschy that I would love for a Sunday night. I think in this one, they said the synopsis was that the pen. Somebody got an antique pen, and it was haunted, and they started writing about serial killers, and they started inspiring those kills in real life. I was like, oh yeah, I would love to watch that.
A cursed pen transforms a hack writer into a best-selling novelist, noted for his realistic portrayals of serial killers, an accuracy he achieves by creating real killers. That's a good pitch.
Oh my God, 100%, dude. We need a remake. I would watch that today.
Oh yeah. So this is your sitcom night. So as you mentioned before, this was like the watching stuff with your dad night. You got Married with Children there, and all the sitcoms, because there's a lot of movies the other nights. I do want to mention that there is, where is it? I just saw it. Oh my God. I was just looking at it. It's Booker. Oh, that's what it is. So they're starting to, Twin Peaks was a mid-season replacement in 1990. So they're starting to tease Twin Peaks. Okay. So on this page with the Friday the 13th, the series, and Married with Children, there's a little Who Killed Laura Palmer square. And that's all it says. Who Killed Laura Palmer? Twin Peaks. Which is a great ad.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, does that mean... Yeah. And so is it playing anywhere on TV? Because I couldn't actually find the schedule for it. I just saw the ad.
It hadn't started yet. It was launching the week after. Okay. So that was just like a teaser to be like... That's the whole ad. It's just a black box. It says Who Killed Laura Palmer, Twin Peaks, which I think is so simple and perfect because immediately you're like, oh, I'm kind of interested in that. What is that? And you'll watch it.
This type of advertising is really interesting to like just place like a little Easter egg here and then get people excited. Like there's no advertising like this anymore. Now it's just like some Instagram ad in your feed. It's like, hey, do you want to buy this new lava lamp? You know,
who killed this lava lamp?
Yeah, exactly. Advertising is so lame now. This is so cool.
Well, I think people are scared to maybe either alienate people, or if they feel like they're not guaranteed to hook people, they'll be like, well, with this ad, people don't know what it is. They're not going to watch it. But it's like, well, that's that's the brilliance of the ad. That's the point of the ad. But I think like executives would be like, no, we got to make sure they know everything to expect and show everything. And but it's like, no, you're really missing the point there, man.
Yeah, most ads these days, they give away the whole thing, right, in the ad. But I just think it's awesome that like I think it's so interesting that like Twin Peaks is a really, really dark show. And once again, like talking about people taking risks during prime time, and especially the way it pulls you in. You think it's just like a normal murder story, and then it turns into the most twisted thing you've ever could possibly imagine, and it's just here in the middle of TV Guide.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome.
But was also funny. Like it was just a really great mix of weirdness that again is why it stood out. It was, and it burned out quickly. Like it was only 2 seasons. It was a huge phenomenon. And then just as quickly as people got into it, the majority of them just soured on it really quickly.
Yeah, I think, when they found out what the father was doing to the daughter, I think a lot of people couldn't handle it.
Well, and also the beauty of that show was that it wasn't about the mystery. It was about everything else. And the mystery was just a hook to kind of kick off the events. But you realize that for a lot of the people who were watching it, that's all they cared about was like, oh, we know who did it now. I don't care anymore. I was like, oh, you're missing all this other amazing stuff here.
Oh yeah. That's ridiculous. People are watching Twin Peaks like they watch like Nancy Drew or something like that. But to this day, like I love just going to a diner and just getting a slice of pie and some coffee. And I just feel like I'm in Twin Peaks, just.
Have you ever gone up to the Pacific Northwest, not that far north, and there's like that diner is there?
It is? No, I haven't been that far north. I've been to Portland and all that stuff, but not further than that.
Yeah, the Double R is like a real place, and like that stuff's legitimately up there, which is kind of cool. Monday, what'd you do?
Monday, I wanted to watch that movie, The King of Comedy. That's I'm here's the thing. I never consider myself to be a De Niro fan, but now I have 2 movies that I'm watching with De Niro in them. But I love this movie is just awesome. Like I just love how, because to me a comedy is twisted, and I think this movie really drives home just how twisted it is behind the scenes. Because I got into stand-up just because I wanted to go on stage and tell jokes. And then you start learning about things that are happening in the industry and what it takes to get on these TV shows, and and all the characters that you deal with, and the mental illness that pervades the whole industry. So I think this movie, really kind of captured that.
This movie is sort of an unofficial sequel to Taxi Driver. It's Scorsese and De Niro together again. And it was because it's called The King of Comedy, people thought it was a comedy, but it is no way a comedy. It's actually the Joker that you were talking about earlier is basically a remake of The King of Comedy. It's almost the same exact story.
Yeah.
And Jerry Lewis is in it, and he's just Jerry Lewis was this complete asshole, and this is one of the few movies where he's basically actually playing his real self in this movie. Sandra Bernhardt's in it and is really great. The Clash is in this movie. This was Scorsese was originally going to do Gangs of New York before this movie, so in like 85, I think. King Comedy's 82, so I think 80 or 81 he was going to try to do Gangs of New York, and his plan was that the Clash was going to play one of the gangs.
Wow! Oh, that's incredible. What part did the Clash play in King of Comedy?
They show up. It's more of like a cameo. They're in the. I think they're in the studio when Pupkin goes to bug Jerry Lewis, and he's like getting in a limo. Because then also in Scorsese's movie After Hours, he features Bad Brains, which is really weird.
Oh, awesome.
It's like,
yeah. I mean, the Clash, I grew up on the Clash, and I just, this movie King of Comedy. And then when the Joker came out, I've watched The Joker like 6 or 7 times. I've watched it too many times for it to be considered healthy. And
more than once.
More than once. Yeah. I really, oh my God, it's just so odd. I just love how that scene where Joaquin is just the final scene where he's just like, what do you get when you cross someone who's mentally ill with the society who neglects him? You get what you deserve. It's just like, this is like the best movie moment of my life.
You're on a list somewhere for that.
I know. I can no longer do comedy.
There's also, in the Monday night, there's also another Twin Peaks ad. So every week there's an ad where they're just teasing the show. And so this one, another black square, just text that says, what's the FBI doing here? Twin Peaks. So it's like these little weird sort of semi-cryptic statements that you're like, I want to check this out. Tuesday, what'd you do?
Let's see what's going on Tuesday. Oh yeah, Tuesday is a fun day. Okay, yeah, I really like this night. Okay, so we start off easy with Who's the Boss. Like, I think, I think it's hilarious that Tony Danza was like considered maybe like a sex symbol.
Oh yeah,
because he's like, just this goofy guy. But like, if you watch Who's the Boss, like there's very like egregious scenes of just like Tony Danza's abs in like, we're focusing on him like a piece of meat, and I'm like, this guy's a goofball. But I think it was just like a very fun, lighthearted thing, and I love Tony in Taxi, the show Taxi, and so I would probably follow him into his spin-off series. So Who's the Boss is just very lighthearted. That gets us ready for the Wonder Years, and here's the thing. When I was growing up, the Wonder Years, my dad would not let me watch it. But in recent years, when I watch it, I cannot help it, but I end up crying every single episode.
Same.
And you never see it coming, and you just like, oh my God, you're like, I wish I had a family that cared about each other this much. Like, it's so sentimental. Oh my God. It's so heavy. I don't think I can watch more than one episode of the Wonder Years, in a day. Like there's no back-to-back Wonder Years for me, it's
not a binge show. They're dense. They're dense episodes. Like there's a lot in you get like a movie's worth of stuff in a half hour.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know how they pulled it off and made it so sentimental. But I can understand why people loved that show. And I don't know why my dad didn't let me watch it. I think he thought like the narration was weird or something like that. He's like, they keep stopping the show to talk over it. He's like, no, let's not watch this.
Yeah. It is a very, I guess if you didn't grow up with that kind of thing narratively, it would seem strange. And it was, it's very cinematic for a TV show. It was a single cam shot on film, the flashback thing. This particular episode is the episode where they do Our Town in high school. One of two sitcoms I can think of that did extended episodes of the characters performing in Our Town, the other being Growing Pains, this same year, weirdly. I don't know why everyone was all about Our Town in 1990, but it's a pretty good episode.
Interesting.
There's also at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, sorry, Ed.
No. I was just gonna muse on how, like, I think like if you're going through anything in your life, just watch an episode of The Wonder Years, cry it out, and then you're fresh to go face whatever you need to face.
Or if you're not going through anything, watch it and you'll feel like you have.
Oh, yeah. If you need to age 10 years in one night, just turn on any episode of The Wonder Years.
If you need to go gray and you can't find a ghost to scare you, you can turn that on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where in Los Angeles you are, but in Burbank, the Wonder Years houses are still there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you Googled,
go visit.
If you Google Wonder Year houses, I bet you it's less than 10 minutes drive from where you are now. Like right after this, you drive by the Arnold's house. They look exactly the same. And it will blow your mind because they're right there.
That must be some pricey real estate to live in the Wonder Years house.
I don't even think that people know. Like if you live in the greater Los Angeles area, there's like a 50-50 chance your house is from some movie or TV show.
Yeah, totally. It's like, oh yeah, wait, Beethoven was filmed here? Okay, all right.
You find out when some people are on your lawn taking pictures and you're like, what was this in? Poltergeist? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a
All right, it's haunted. Okay, cool.
there's a made-for-TV movie on at 9 o'clock on Tuesday night, and I have never heard of this, but I'm very intrigued by this. It's called Laker Girls. And it focuses on 3 aspirants.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard aspiring, but I've never heard the noun version of it. Aspirants. 3 aspirants for the cheerleading squad.
I'm going to start using that.
Yeah, like look at these aspirants. Someone auditioning for anything? A couple of aspirants. Of the Los Angeles Lakers team, whose most celebrated alum is Paula Abdul. So this stars Tina Yothers from Family Ties, Alexandra Paul from Baywatch, Paris Vaughn, Sherry Shattuck, Gene Simmons, not from Kiss, the other Gene Simmons, and Ken Oleant. And there's a full page ad. Like they put some money into this thing. I wonder how Aaron Gray is in it. This may be terrible.
I feel like my dad would have been really into this.
Oh, yeah.
And we could have probably watched it together.
Yeah.
That would have been one that would have passed the check. But yeah, it's funny. Paula Abdul is in there because she actually started as a cheerleader.
Yeah, for the Lakers. She was a Laker girl.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So yeah, that's this is some, it's like a softcore erotica or something, but I'm super down for it.
Yeah, they were really trying to push like nationally the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and the Laker girls, the Laker cheerleaders as like national celebrities. Like they really pushed it for whatever. Well, I think we know the reason.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
They are celebrities in my mind.
Wednesday,
Sure.
What'd you do?
Oh, do you mind if I? Do you mind if I bring up
go
one more
for it.
thing
Yeah,
on Tuesday quickly? Yeah, this is very important. For me, I feel like so. Boxing is on from 9 to 10, and George Foreman is fighting. And I think George Foreman is such an underrated figure in boxing history. I think he gets overlooked. I think people talk about Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, and then they stop. And I really think people need to be talking about George Foreman because if you're like, let's talk about it. He was defeated by Muhammad Ali, then forced into retirement, then decided to come back, became the heavyweight champion of the world, became the oldest person ever to win a heavyweight title. He was like 45. And I mean, dude, instead of celebrating Muhammad Ali for just being a good fighter, why not celebrate somebody who can come back from a loss that big and have a late in life success? Like that, to me, that's so inspirational. Like, honestly, I feel like George Foreman, like I'll be entering my 40s. I'm going to be really, things are starting to happen in stand up for me. So it feels like, I resonate with his story more than someone else's. And when you watch Foreman fight, it's just a calm, calculated, slow chugging kind of fight. And he's not trying to kill the other person. Like the moment that he knows he's won the fight, he calls the ref. He's like, "Ref, it's done. Get this guy out of here." And I respect him so much. And I think we really just I want to hear more about George. I want more documentaries about George.
And you also have 7 kids all named Richard. That's the big connection there.
Does he have 7 kids?
Yeah, and they're all named George Foreman. He named them all George Foreman.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Including the girls.
Oh my God. Okay. Wait, hold up.
That's true.
That is
100% true.
I did not realize that is okay. That gives me just a new level of respect for this guy.
This is USA Boxing. I mean, his record at the time was 65-2, 2 losses. One of them was Muhammad Ali, which is almost doesn't even count because who the hell's beating him? And out of his 65 wins, 61 of them were knockouts. So, he has a pretty stellar record. I think people write him off because he wasn't showy and, he was selling his grill later and also, Muhammad Ali was genuinely funny, but he was funny in kind of a weird way, like a scary way. And George Foreman, was quieter funny. Like he had more of like a congenial sense of humor,
Yeah, that is true. I noticed that people who are not like showy personalities, they don't get the limelight they deserve. Like it's kind of funny. Like LeBron James has more stats than Michael Jordan, but LeBron is not as like interesting as Michael Jordan. Like Michael Jordan is a trash talker. You know, he gets in your face. Like he really makes people feel bad on the court. You know, LeBron is kind of like, hey, you know, I'm here to play the game. I'm here to score points and do well. It is a really interesting, you know, what people gravitate towards. So I don't know. That is it's a strange part of human nature that we're just like, hey man, talk some trash and, you know, I will
Everyone
watch.
loves a villain. Everyone loves a villain. Wednesday.
Everyone loves a villain.
Wednesday,
yeah.
what'd you do?
Okay, Wednesday. Okay, so this is, you know, I love Robert Downey Jr. and I never saw this movie. Chances are, and this is just seems like some silly movie, but I think I watched a little bit of it, and I think it's so fascinating to see Robert Downey Jr. You know, before the rehab, before the arrests, just you know when he was starting out, and it's so cool to see like his acting is the same. You know, he's got his quick little mannerisms. And like he's quick and jerky and like a little bit off-putting, but like you kind of can't stop watching him. For me, I thought it was so cool because I only know Robert Downey Jr. as of like, you know, I think the first movie I saw him in was like A Scanner Darkly or something like that.
So not even
you know?
post like Chaplin,
later,
like even later than that.
Yeah. I got into him very late. So to see him like as a young man, like is so fascinating for me.
He was a cast member of SNL for a season.
That really,
Yeah.
that is so interesting.
In '85, when Lorne
Whoa.
Michaels came back, Anthony Michael Hall, Robert Downey Jr., Damon Wayans, they were all cast members for that first season in '85. It's odd. Randy Quaid.
Yeah, I mean, he's very fun. He's very funny. I mean, in Tropic Thunder, I mean, he was incredible. So I could totally see him on SNL. It's kind of funny that he chooses to do just mostly drama.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just wanted to be like respected. That usually ends up happening because you know in the '80s he would play like the wacky friend kind of guy. So I think it was like I take me seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are it's a fun movie. It's Sybil Shepherd and him, and he plays her reincarnated dead husband, I believe, or some weird like ghost thing. Sort of a romantic comedy. It's a fun movie. It's not the greatest movie, but it's not bad. He made it the same year he made a movie called The Pickup Artist with Molly Ringwald.
Oh, interesting. I gotta watch that.
Yeah,
because I'm very interested. Like I think pickup artists are so funny. Like I watch a lot of their videos, and you know, I just think it's fascinating. So I want to see Robert Downey Jr. In that.
Oh
my God.
Yeah. Even just watch
100%.
the trailer, you'll get a vibe for it. It's an interesting flick to watch. There's also that night another mid-season replacement show, and this was a show called Normal Life. And this show stars Dweezil Zappa and Moon Unit Zappa, Frank Zappa's kids, and they're essentially playing themselves. So the concept of the show is these two rock stars' kids are trying to have a normal life. So it was on for half a season. It was about 13 episodes. It's actually not bad. Like Dweezil Zappa's funny, Moon Zappa's really funny on it, but it didn't. Nothing really picked up. And on CBS that night is a mid-season show of Sydney, which stars Valerie Bertinelli, Miss Eddie Van Halen. And this was her sort of comeback after her show as a teenager. And again, also didn't work.
You know, these rock stars are interesting. I can understand Van Halen's appeal, but Frank Zappa was such a showman. I didn't grow up during the time when he was famous. You know, I've tried listening to his music, and none of it really appeals to me. But he must have been like a performer. Yeah, he must have been like his shows must have been crazy, and I'm assuming that's why people went to go see him. Because I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't know. Did you ever see him live or anything?
No, but he's one of those guys who's so smart that you're like, I recognize he has a joke going on, and I don't think I'm smart enough to get it.
Yeah. He always seems one step ahead. Yeah. Fascinating character.
Whereas Van Halen just rules.
Yeah, Van Halen. Hey, I know what Van Halen is all about. You know, I get it. Like Panama. Like
Fantastic.
I get it. Like it's a. I can get behind.
Ain't talking about love. Like what's who doesn't love that?
Yeah.
Also want to note Jake and the Fat Man is on that night, which I always like to mention because I still can't believe that was a show where William Conrad starred in it, and he's a big fat guy, and they actually called the show Jake and the Fat Man, and he was okay with that.
Wow. Yeah, I think, TV back in the day, I think you could just really do a lot of stuff. Like, I think there was one Wonder Years episode where, like, he's working in the cafeteria, and the head of the cafeteria, his name is just Mr. Chong.
Yeah.
And he's got, like, this ridiculous accent. And I'm like, oh, so you can just get away with all sorts of stuff on TV in the 90s. Like,
Oh, yes.
this stuff, yeah, no, you cannot call someone the Fat Man anymore.
No.
Like,
In
this
the-
would have to be like the Brave Man or...
And the title of the show, I'm like, wow. That is amazing. There's also
Oh, yeah, that'd be...
it's literally the title. There's also a mid-season replacement show that only lasted a couple episodes, and this was a drama about law school students. So it was like first-year lawyers, and it's called Equal Justice, but it stars Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting to see these actresses get their starts in all these like random shows. Like, you just realize that like everyone who's acting has been acting since they were a child. Like, there was some episode. Oh, and Who's the Boss? Alyssa Milano is a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how she started. It's just all these actors are just lifetime actors on TV. It's so interesting.
Yeah, or people who became incredibly famous later. Like you see how many tried and faileds there were. Like, oh no, they were on 7 shows that lasted 3 episodes before this show was a huge hit, which is always kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that really gives me a lot of faith for stand-up because I mean, I notice most stand-up comedians like most successful ones have been doing comedy like 20 years.
Yeah, like
So
20
it's
years
like-
longer
I'm
than
like,
you
oh,
think they
okay.
were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Louis C.K., like when he became famous, had been doing comedy more than 20 years. So
Oh yeah, people always say it's like a decades long overnight sensation.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Thursday, what'd you do?
Thursday, look, I'm such a comedy nerd. I'm watching Duck Soup, the Marx Brothers. I just this era of like slapstick comedy really appeals to me. When I was a kid, my dad used to play a lot of 1930s Depression era slapstick stuff for me. We'd be watching Charlie Chaplin, Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, the Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton. We would just constantly filling the house. And the reason this happened is because my dad grew up in India, and in the 50s in India, they were watching 30s movies from America. And so when my dad got to America in the 70s, and when I was a kid in the 80s, he was giving me the movies that he saw as a kid, which happened to be movies from the 30s in America. So, my basis for like comedy is so much older than most comedians.
But that
and
stuff
the Marx Brothers are part of that.
Transcends country too, especially the slapstick stuff, because it's like, you're not working on
Yeah.
cultural stuff. There's not plays on words. It's just like physical comedy is going to appeal, across the board.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that this movie, I think, really drilled home the importance of physical humor in comedy. You really don't need words to make people laugh. You can just look at someone weird. You can like move your body weird. And so it's like, this was such a foundational movie for me. I mean, I think it's like, yeah, it's just iconic.
I also love that in 1990, they're airing a movie from 1933. Like a almost 60-year-old movie is
Yeah.
on, and it's on right with everything else, and that didn't seem
Yeah.
weird at the time.
I noticed that with a lot of these movies, it seems like, there's regularly stuff from like the 50s and 60s playing. Like 1933 is a little older than normal, but it did seem like there was a lot of black and white stuff still in rotation during this era.
It's so weird that movie's almost 100 years old now. 91 years old.
That is, it's It's wild. I think it's fine. We're reaching this age now where you can't possibly have seen every movie. So like, I think up until like 1960, you could be like a savant and you're like, yeah, I've seen everything. But, now as we get into 2024, it's like, hey, I know probably the last 20 years, but beyond that, it's like historic. It's a museum beyond that.
But it's all accessible to you, which is amazing. Like even at this time, like, you could have rented Duck Soup, but for the most part, you probably would have to wait till it was coming on TV.
Yeah.
Like it was, so now you could watch it on your phone in 3 seconds. There's two mid-season replacements on Thursday night that I wanted to mention that are favorites of mine. One is called Max Monroe Loose Cannon. And this was a show by Shadow Stevens, friend of the show, former guest of the show. And this was a parody show. He basically plays like a Dirty Harry style cop who's like a complete psycho. So it's sort of like Sledgehammer, but it's a comedy. And this was the debut. He created this show. It was really funny and weird. I highly recommend it. And then the other show was a show called Grand. And this was like a soap opera sort of parody, and it had Bonnie Hunt in it. It had Joel Murray. It was Michael McKean. It was just a really weird sort of dramatic sitcom that was sort of under the radar and was only one season, and I really loved it. And it's hard to see now, but if people can hunt it down, it's worth watching.
It's you're saying it's a parody of a soap opera?
Sort of,
that sounds pretty fascinating.
Yeah, but it's not super broad, so it's not like like Naked Gun style parody. It's a little more like it seems authentic and is a parody kind of thing, and it's just very good. Friday night. So good.
As I get older, I was just say, as I get older, I start enjoying this era of TV more because I'm able to bypass the cheesiness of it. Like I think when I was a teenager, I would watch a lot of these shows and be like, "Oh, this is so cheesy," And now that I'm an adult, it's more charming now. So I'm really enjoying going back, and I think I will watch a lot of these things and appreciate them with new eyes.
Yeah, and I think you can understand like context and time, era, and place like a little bit more as an adult. So it's you do enjoy these things a lot more, and there's so much great stuff. Like again, people sit on the mid-season replacements, but just there's some great stuff coming out at those times. So Friday, 1990.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Oof. Well, okay, gotta pay respect to the great Bob Saget. We have to start with Full House. I mean, this is just, where do you, like, how do you beat this show? It's just like, you feel good. I mean, I can see the entire living room in my brain right now. I know their whole floor plan, all the characters. We got Joey, Danny. Oh man, just, I don't know. This is pure comfort. Like I can see why Bob Saget was just the biggest star, Yeah,
and this show,
just makes you
the
happy.
original pitch for that show was 3 stand-up comedians live together. That was the original pitch for that show, and it got picked up as that. Jeff Franklin was a stand-up, and then they, the network started meddling, and you have the kids, and now it's 1 stand-up comic instead of 3. It's becoming kind of a different show. Probably for the better. I feel like a show about 3 stand-up comics living together would be absolutely insufferable.
Yeah, that would be a little awful. I think, and it turns out like, why are these two guys? The whole thing about like, why are these 2 men like living with each other, like, and they're they're not in a relationship, they're friends, and then just the lore around this show that what's his name? The guy he dated, Alanis Morissette, right?
Joey
what's
Uncle Joey. It's Dave Coulier.
Uncle Joey, yeah. Dave Coulier, yeah, of course. It's just so funny, and like just the behind the scenes of this, like, oh, that wild song by Alanis is about this guy. Yeah. That's so great.
There's also 2 mid-season shows on CBS that night. One is Baghdad Cafe, which is really bizarre because it's based on a movie that's not a comedy. And it stars Whoopi Goldberg and Gene Stapleton in this sitcom. And this was when Whoopi had just made Ghost. So she was, a movie star being on a TV show, which was really strange.
Yeah.
And then a show called Sugar and Spice, which was Loretta Devine and Vicki Lynn Reynolds. And this was like this was two aunts raising their niece, which is a bit like Full House. Both of these shows did not do well, but are kind of an interesting snapshot.
Interesting. Yeah. So these mid-season replacements, they're experiments, right? And then they just see which ones get the best ratings and they keep those.
Yeah. So it would be like they put all their money into the September shows. By January, some of them would have failed. So they pull the plug on them and they have these other shows that are sort of in their back pocket that didn't quite make the cut for the fall because they might be a little weirder or like a little bit of a higher concept that they can kind of pull together quickly and throw out there. And there are some shows that started as mid-season replacements and became incredibly popular shows. Night Court was one, The Simpsons, but it generally was just sort of a dumping ground for shows that didn't last very long.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So much different than the way like people experiment with shows now. Like, I mean, on Netflix, it's like most people don't watch most of what's on Netflix. They watch like 2 or 3 things, and then all these like hundreds of other shows are just there for like, okay, look at all this content we have.
Right.
But it's only like a couple shows that are driving the whole platform.
Yeah, but again, in that case too, it's people. Although I guess the algorithm stuff recommends things, so people might check out stuff they wouldn't otherwise. But it's kind of like you can watch whatever you want as long as you already know what you want to watch, instead of just like, what's this?
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is kind of a completely different thing.
So yeah, Full House. Then I'm gonna go to Family Matters. Iconic, and then. At night, I want to watch Big with Tom Hanks.
A movie that at the time was creepy and remains creepy, but I still enjoy.
Continues to get creepier and creepier. Yeah. So it's just interesting. Like so many movies and shows during this era were like, a guy's in a different body. Like, it's so interesting. Like, chances are with Robert Downey Jr., he's in a different body and he's like falling in love with his mom or his crush's mom. And then, Big, he's a kid in an adult's body. And then,
vice versa.
Back to the Future. He's going back in time and he's falling in love. Yeah, everything's switching and moving around.
Like father, like son.
I don't see too much of that.
Yeah, there was. I feel like there's less of a gap between the generations. Like it seems less crazy that like, oh no, I got to pretend to be my dad. I got to go to work and be in the office, or like dad doesn't understand kids of the 80s. I think Big was the best of the bunch. And I think the reason was it was just the kid being an adult. It ditched the whole like, and the adult has to do kid stuff, which the older people who are making the movie seem to think was hilarious, but was always bad in those movies.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like the kids are the ones that really want to watch all this stuff. Like they're the ones that are like fascinated with it. Like, and this is such a thing. Like, it just resonates. It's like, I just want to be an adult. I want to be big. I mean, it's so primal. It's like every single kid on the entire planet could watch it and enjoy.
Plus, we all want a loft with a trampoline and a Pepsi machine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. That movie was just crack for kids.
I saw it in the theater, 1988. Saw it on release day.
Would love to go back.
They give Big 3 stars, and chances are they give, just out of curiosity, 2 stars. So
it's got to be like 2 stars.
Yeah, so Big is 50% better than chances are. Well, Richard, that is the week, but as you know, TV Guide is not just informative. It has opinions and it cheers and it jeers. So to wrap up here, I would like to read you the cheers and jeers of this week, March 31st to April 6th, 1990, and let's see if you agree or disagree with TV Guide.
All right.
This is always my favorite segment of the TV Guide because it is unsigned, so it tends to be incredibly bitchy and weird complaints. So let's see what they're complaining about this week. It's a split week. We get 2 cheers, 2 jeers. We start with a cheers.
Okay.
Cheers to the Nashville Network for its all-star salute to country music, the real purpose of which was kept under wraps until its actual taping. Thinking he was only a guest on the 2-hour special, Ralph Emery, an influential DJ and host of TNN's daily Nashville Now, was more than slightly shocked when Johnny Cash and Barbara Mandrell interrupted his opening remarks and announced that the show was actually a tribute to him. Over 70 of country music's finest proceeded to pay homage to their friend and supporter, making for a remarkable trip down Emery Lane.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? I can't believe they didn't give this guy a heart attack.
Yeah, he's an older guy.
Exactly. This is crazy. This is like one of those videos where like there's one surviving member of the Holocaust or something, and then they like everybody like starts to like. I forget. I saw some crazy video where like they were there to celebrate him, but
it's like a positive prank.
That I've never had a surprise. Yeah, exactly. It's a positive prank. I've never had a surprise that good in my life.
No, I would just be embarrassed that people spent that much money to to put that together.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is for me? Like,
yeah.
Oh, dude,
sure?
Come on. You could have bought something.
Cheers to PBS's Great Moments from the Met, from musical misrepresentation. Hosted by F. Murray Abraham, the special features highlights curated from the Metropolitan Opera's 13 years of public television. Also promised as a preview of the upcoming telecast of Wagner's complete 4-opera Ring Cycle was the gut-wrenching finale of Die Valkyrie, in which Brunhilde is put to sleep on the mountaintop by her father Wotan and surrounded by fire. So there we were, enthralled by the swelling orchestra, all set for the pyrotechnic climax, and what happens? Cut. Right in the middle of the scene, back to F. Murray Abraham, who says we'll have to wait until June to see the whole thing. Talk about this person's complaining about an opera being a cliffhanger. How old is the person who wrote that?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. This is blue balls for you if you're 95 years old.
Yes.
You're like, no climax.
Where are my pyrotechnics I was promised?
God.
I might not live till June when they have the second part.
Oh my.
Oof.
But oh my God, I would definitely watch an opera if they had pyrotechnics. I mean, This is a combination between, Vivaldi and a Kiss concert. Like this sounds pretty awesome.
I feel like they're not that different. And then we have a cheers, this one appropriately to what we were talking about earlier. Cheers to Dan Lauria, Jack Arnold on ABC's The Wonder Years, for realizing a 10-year goal, getting TV producers to subsidize theatrical productions as a potential source of writers, directors, and actors for TV. Lauria recently convinced Patchett Kaufman Entertainment, producers of NBC's upcoming Working Girl series, to invest $100,000 in 4 plays he's staging in the hopes that there will be fertile proving grounds for new TV series and movies. The second that sound you hear, Dan, is a standing ovation. That is really cool that he did that. I wonder if any shows did come out of that. I'm gonna have to look up to see if anything came of it, but it's kind of sad that was unusual for someone to do that.
Yeah. I mean, look, Dan is an amazing actor. Anything he wants to put forth, I am super down for. And I think that's a really good way to develop TV shows. I mean, just, have a bunch of theatrical productions. And if it works in front of a live audience, it's going to work for a network audience. So yeah, I don't really know why we don't do that more often. Yeah.
And presumably like $100,000 investment for 4 plays. Like if one of them hits or you get a hit show out of it, like that's a huge return on investment. Like it would make sense, but it's sad that it didn't continue.
100%. Yeah.
And finally, jeers to CBS's The Bradys, currently off the network's schedule. Readers of this column already know that we were less than enthusiastic about the return of the silly sitcom family as a bunch of angst-ridden adults. We knew the show was really in trouble, however, when the producers decided to use a laugh track. We thought we were supposed to take the grown-up Brady's problem seriously. We didn't realize that Marcia's drinking problem was supposed to be funny. But why else were those people chuckling in the background when she fell to pieces, bombed out of her mind? Our condolences to Leah Ayres, who stepped in as Marcia after Maureen McCormick. The original decided to avoid the comeback catastrophe. And as for McCormick, well, she who laughs last. Yeah, this was crazy. They brought back the Brady Bunch in 1990 as an hour-long drama.
Wow.
shot it as a drama, and
Oh my
it
God.
started to fail. So they literally took the drama episodes they had already shot and added a laugh track.
Oh my God, dude.
It's
I love that
weird.
idea of a bandage. Oh my God. Oh
is
yeah. I mean, they're like, oh no, it just, that is super weird. I need to go and watch these episodes. I bet it's surreal.
Yeah.
And especially knowing that it was filmed as a drama first. Oh my God. Like, and I wonder, it sounds so dark. She's an alcoholic. And then
Yeah.
like that cheesy laugh track. Just,
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's bizarre because it literally they're putting laughs over stuff that was supposed to be like a big dramatic moment. They're like, people don't know, right? Same
oh
thing.
my God, why are you hitting the kids?
Yeah, it's
Just like crazy.
man, what a failed experiment. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. I really
glad that
appreciate you
exists.
doing this. And no, I've been reminded of a bunch of stuff I want to go back and watch.
Yeah. Oh my God. This was such a very cool exercise for me. Like I just want to go back and exist in this time period. I'm going to start watching these shows again. Yeah, like I miss this time in television, and I feel bad that like this was, this was the time in television where this stuff was on and you had to watch it. And, now it's like I have to go find what's good, and it's just so annoying. So no, I really appreciate you putting me through this exercise.
And silver lining, you can watch Pyrotechnics now whenever you want.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, hey, you're not cutting off an opera while I'm watching now. No, I'm watching the full thing.
Fire under bed. There you go. That's Richard. Good dude. Fun dude. Had a good time talking to him. Check out his stand-up special on Blonde Medicine. They're going to know. That's the name of the special. If you check it out on Blonde Medicine, they probably will know you checked it out, but the special's called They're Gonna Know. How many Who's on First-esque hilarious bits have people done to Richard based on that? Anyway, yeah. Can you tell I'm distracted today? But that's it. I'll be here next week. I'll be less distracted, I promise you. So please be here then for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
If I woke up in the middle of the night and saw that, I'd be terrified and also happy.